Am I giving lady with a little taste of love?
You are.
Thank you.
Amuse.
Ione!
So excited to see this.
Me too. Mickalene Thomas, All About Love.
2 decades of work.
First time in a UK cultural institution.
Wow.
We're just throwing facts at one another.
Should we go in?
Yes, I can't wait to see. I've heard all about the rhinestones. See, I don't usually go in for rhinestones too much. However, coming into this kind of dimly lit room where they're glowing from the paintings, it's quite something.
I love a rhinestone.
You're
Give
a
me something
bedazzler.
sparkly and I'm like,
No, 100%. And speaking of something sparkly, should we start with this lovely lady here?
I think it's so fab to see multimedia works like this that kind of use materials like diamante in institutional settings and kind of just shows that, you know, art can and should be for everyone and for all materials. Rhinestone Everything, including your works of art.
She's really languidly kind of laying there. She's butt naked, but we don't feel any sort of sexualization from that. It just feels like she's chilling, not like she's here for our consumption.
I think because also she doesn't seem posed, like this isn't a naturally rigid, contrived pose.
I also love the collage of patterns. You feel like you can touch this without actually needing to use your hands to touch it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you wouldn't really get that effect if you were just looking at these works online. Like, there's definitely another element that comes from actually looking at these pieces, seeing how the light kind of bounces off it, seeing all the different textures even. It all feels very important to the piece, not just coincidental.
It's the first time her work has been shown in a UK institution. When I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about kind of how it's about Black American femininity, and I was thinking, ooh, you know, blackness isn't a monolith, and if you come to this as a Black English woman or just a woman, is it still going to hit the same? But I think it's a celebration of all those things and like all the things that exist within one person.
So this is actually a work of her ex, and everyone in this room has some sort of relationship to Mickalene, whether it's mother, ex, friend.
Yeah.
I think you can feel that kind of like closeness in the pieces.
Yeah.
They're not pieces you can make about someone that you didn't like.
No, these women don't feel like strangers at all. And I think obviously with the exhibition being called All About Love, relating to the Bell Hooks book, there's some love here for all of them. And then actually, you know what, coming back to the rhinestones, which I seem to be obsessed with today, I think the adornment of the rhinestones screams self-love. I know this woman didn't choose to put the rhinestones there herself, but there's something in that, and like, I like that act, with the very, very feminine act of like bedazzling yourself, and it feels like these women are completely bedazzled.
Especially when the woman herself is actually naked.
Yeah.
It's like, but we can still kind of find ways to embellish ourselves or
100%.
embellish ourselves with love, I guess.
Yeah. I like that, embellish ourselves with love.
And rhinestones.
And rhinestones.
Please.
Don't forget the rhinestones. So we're coming into what looks like the familial home here. I don't know these people, you know what I mean? I don't know this living room, but I feel like I know it.
Feel like you've been there.
Yeah. I found out this word, anemoia, which is nostalgia for a time you haven't known, and I feel the 70s coming off this. I wasn't there. I'm hella young, you know? But I can still enter this room and just feel, I don't know, I can feel that 70s moment in it. And also this kind of collage that she seems to have brought out of the paintings onto this fabric. They all have these textures. I don't know, it feels like it's cobbled together from loads of people's memories. But I was also told that this furniture was kind of an homage to the fact that her grandma used to fix fabrics, fix furniture. And there's something about, I don't know, how clothes or furniture can get darned, fixed, changed over time that starts telling their story because it's all on there. You know what I mean? And it's not perfectly collaged together. You're seeing like stitches and all these sort of things. I think it's all in that imperfectness. It feels even more homely than if it had just been one couch fabric.
I feel like it kind of puts you at ease when you're coming into the gallery space as well, which can sometimes feel like quite harsh or like unwelcoming and all of these things, but coming into this space, it's like, oh, well, it's the living room.
Yeah.
And like all the pieces are so warm and like have so many different elements to them. It feels like not just more relatable, but somewhere that you can like look around and enjoy rather than being like, oh, this isn't this isn't something I can speak to.
I also love this triptych, the 3 panels of her mum on the wall, because it's glam.
She was posing as if she was Pam Grier, the famous blaxploitation actress.
Love.
And I think she could literally be a famous actress in these. I know she was a model.
Yeah, but this is what I love about Mickalene's work, is that rather than always seeing these images we always see of the already famous kind of black woman, it's taking the everyday, you know, her mother, was a model, but it's like, she's not even that everyday, she's a baddie. But it's taking like someone as close to you as your mother and re-presenting them as one of Hollywood's biggest stars at the time. And she seems so relaxed, so exuberant, so happy, and also so inspirational, because I would also like to try silver eyeshadow.
We all need it. We all need more of it. I love that, because these were sets that Mickalene built to take the photographs in, right? Like not necessarily this one, but sets like this. And I just love being able to see all the different facets that go into making a piece, knowing that like Mickalene built these sets and then also took still photographs like the ones of her mum on the wall here, and then made a like painting / multimedia piece out of it. Just kind of shows like how laborious art can be as well, and how much of like a labour of love it is.
This feels a very homely space, very lived in, but also you can feel the people who have been in here before, which is a crazy thing to say, because this is completely fabricated.
Mickalene has spoken about the feelings they represent, or that they've represented times in her life where she was, you know, feeling safe among women, her mum's friends, family, all of these types of people, and we're kind of like put her ear to the door, listening in on their conversations.
Without being, you know, explicitly feminine, it feels like a really warm kind of female space.
Absolutely, and again, like it feels like a glamorous space, kind of tying into the previous room. Like I feel like it's in conversation with those pictures of her mum. Yeah. Probably because of the silver.
The open-toe pumps, Donna Summer in the background. Also, we've moved on in time as well. We're now in the 80s. I think. So it's watching also Mickalene's growth from child to teen in this later segment. I love a shrine.
I love a shrine.
I love this. I feel like there's something very universal about a shrine. When you're younger, everyone will cut up little photos from magazines and whack them on the wall. What I love about this one, we've got all this representation of these huge characters for black women. Tina Turner, we've got Oprah up there. Representation is not going to solve all the problems in the world, but it does create this kind of tie and this emotional link between these women that people are seeing on the screen. And then I'm imagining Mickalene as a little child in front of this, almost bowing down to the altar. There's something, obviously it's shrine, there's a like hint of kind of tongue-in-cheek religiousness here, because we've got Oprah on the candles, replacing her with like a deity with her. But that's also kind of part of Mickalene's work, is replacing, you know, the original narrative or whatever history has told us, and whacking, you know, Oprah in there sometimes.
I think it speaks to like quite a teenage thing within us of like wanting to define ourselves somehow. Do you know what I mean? Like how you're seeing like quotes alongside handwritten pieces, alongside like Barbies and Grace Jones and like Sage and all these other things. I think it speaks to something that we all try and do, and we say it's teenage, but we try and do it all of our lives. Like I know people do it with their copies of Polyester a lot, like constantly repurposing things to find your own meaning within them. Originally,
when you first approach the shrine, there's something that feels kind of infantile about it, like not completely infantile, but teen. You're working out who you are as a person. However, there's kind of a sadness here, because some of the things on the wall are to do with struggles that teenagers shouldn't actually have to be, you know, a part of. But as a black woman and as a black woman growing up, you have to come to the reality that is slavery, that is the civil rights movement. They're woven in so subtly, and I think that's how identity is constructed as well. 100%. It's woven in subtly, you know. You're not just one thing, you're multitudes. You are a collage. You are a collage. That sucked. Anything else?
No, I think you summed it up perfectly. So this one is a very complicated French name, which I'm not going to try to pronounce.
Le déjeuner sur l'herbe.
Wow.
GCSE French, mate.
I think what's really interesting about this one is that it's kind of like a reappropriation, recreation of a historic work. That was originally by Manet and then recreated by Monet.
What was the original? What was depicted?
Men lounging, having a picnic, enjoying their time off. Historically, in the canon of history, we haven't seen black women depicted that way in art, so this is kind of like a reclamation of it, I guess.
And I think in the original, because I read just there's like a naked lady in with them as well. But it's interesting because these three fully dressed, looking at us. And I love Mickalene's use of, like, I guess the canon of art history and then whacking black women as the main character, as centre frame.
If you didn't have the accompanying text, you might not ever realise it's a recreation because it looks so its own.
I'm kind of torn on the whole recreation thing, in which, you know, shouldn't new language be created to tell the stories of black women rather than trying to insert themselves in a history that has often excluded them. However, I don't think Mickalene really does that. It's not begging for inclusion. It's showing people what happens when recontextualization happens.
Yeah, it's kind of like playing on familiar ideas and like tropes in art, but then changing them and furthering them, I guess.
Yeah. And then on a more like lower base level, I just love to see this in that, you know, we've all been chilling on the grass. We've all been déjeuner sur l'herbe with our girls, and that's a lovely thing to just see represented. So in front of us is one of Mickalene's absolute idols, Carrie May Williams. It's amazing because all her, you know, all these paintings that she's done throughout the rest of the exhibition, she starts with people in her Brooklyn studio, takes a photo of them, and then it goes from there. But her photography is so strong.
Yeah, so strong. I feel like it's just so nice to be able to see this element of the work as well, in the same way that it's nice to see the set pieces, that they all just kind of like build to these multimedia pieces, but also like how strongly they sit by themselves. Like these photos are just incredible on their own. Like again, some really strong eyeshadow here.
I also love this woman without any sort of adornment. She is sat there completely bare, sepia tone, but there's a comfort there, because I just think so often, especially with black female bodies, the way they've been depicted in art, there's a lot of like pain and sometimes sadness there, and to just see it like comfortable, chill, non-sexualized, yet boobies out, fabulous. For me, this is one of my favorite pieces. Because in an exhibition that is all about love, this one is all about kind of struggle and pain. It's got the most explicit reference in that she's kind of bedazzled Pablo Picasso's Guernica across, well, a bit of it, across the canvas, which is kind of a reaction to a bombing of the town Guernica by fascist forces in the 30s. And the fact that she's put underneath it the layering of photos, images from the civil rights movement, it's kind of just a nod to the fact that the struggle continues, you know? And I think so often Mickalene's work has been in contradiction to the people that she's referencing, like we saw with the Manet and all these sort of things. It's like reappropriating. This feels like it's just an echo of the same thing, and I thought that was cool. Exactly, they're in direct conversation. They're actually reinforcing each other's messages. I don't know, the rhinestones have turned to black here. I'd be interested to hear her, like, you know, where she places the rhinestones in this, because I think it gives them a new meaning. We just see them as like a ghost sparkle over rather than harsh lines. So it's like you can explicitly see the Guernica, but it just feels like this echo.
I guess as well, it's interesting to see Mickalene kind of use the same techniques here as she does in the other portraits and stuff, whereas obviously like they're two very different, not very different things because they're interlinked and like in conversation with each other, but as in the diamonds aren't just on it when it's like bright and sparkly and we're showing love and we're showing lovely soft feelings. They do actually have a purpose in places that are like much more of a strong conversation.